Good afternoon. Let's talk about exposing fakes and propaganda of the aggressor state. And first of all, the whole flow of lies which was directed at the world community after Russia struck Ukrainian cities demands refutation. Immediately after that, Russian propagandists began to issue a fake that it seemed to be a high-precision blow to critical infrastructure. After the whole world saw where the missiles actually flew, they unanimously began to assert what, for example, writes the channel Kremlin Laundress. One of the obvious facts of counterattack by Russian forces on the decision-making centers and critical infrastructure of the enemy was high accuracy and flawless planning of the operation. Everyone saw that the missiles arrived in a pedestrian bridge in Kiev and a playground in Leshchenko Park. If this is a decision-making center and critical infrastructure, then what more evidence is needed for the whole world to finally see how cynical lies Russia is using? Just a total lie is the claim that the Russian leadership seems to be trying to save the lives of Ukrainians. As the correspondent of the Russian state television Evgeny Podubny reports about it, for example. The President of Russia, judging by our operations, continues to protect the lives of Ukrainian residents, because he does not think the residents of Ukraine are enemies to us. The answer to this statement can be given by residents of Bucha, Irpin, Hostomel, Mariupol, Kupiansk, Izum and dozens of other cities that were destroyed and whose inhabitants were killed after the Russian world came there. Similarly, Russian state propagandists are trying to shift responsibility for the massacre they conducted in Kupiansk to Ukrainians. This video was distributed on Ukrainian Telegram channels explaining that this video of massacre and burial of local residents with tied hands was taken from the camera of Russian mercenary. But Russian propaganda shifts responsibility to Ukrainians for these acts, which is a total lie. It is also a lie, the statement of the Russian Telegram channel Russia Today, that the Ukrainians seem to have conducted a massacre of civilians. Total RIA Novosti. And this is a company related to Russia Today, a kind of resident of the village Torske, Viktor. Who is Viktor and what is his surname? What responsibility can he take for his words? It is not specified, but this message was translated to millions of users in Russian state propaganda Telegram channels. Another example of lies by creating a fictional character that broadcasts it to the whole world. In order to wage an information war, Russia is unworthy even by those persons who have already been recognized both in Ukraine and around the world as a state criminal and traitors. In particular, the former deputy of the Verkhovna Rada Ilya Kiva, who was deprived of his position in Ukraine. He became one of the mouthpieces of Russian state propaganda and in particular spread the lie to the whole world about the alleged fact that the president of Ukraine left Kyiv and went to Poland. After this lie has been refuted, he continues to replicate it, claiming that such attempts seem to continue. The president ran away from Kyiv this morning, but on the way to Poland, he was stopped and forced to return to the capital, says Kiva. The assessment of this former deputy was not even given by the Ukrainian Verkhovna Rada, depriving him of deputy powers, but by Matsin, when he was issued a certificate of his incomplete mental fitness in order to fulfill his powers. This happened after Kiva was convicted of corruption, when he worked as part of the National Police of Ukraine. By the way, this issue also concerns those former Ukrainian politicians who gave him the way to the Ukrainian parliament, as well as to take high positions in the Ministry of Internal Affairs of Ukraine. These people now no longer play an active role, but questions to them remain unanswered. Meanwhile, Russia is trying to continue to invent characters with international statuses and surnames in order to spread its lies. In particular, Russian propagandist Sovyov aired a sort of Bundestag deputy, and by 2021, already a former deputy, whose name is Valdemar Get, who broadcasts the propaganda narratives necessary for Russia. This man is not Valdemar but Vladimir, and is native of Kazakhstan, who at one time moved to Germany, received citizenship there, and for some time worked as a deputy of the Bundestag. But this Valdemar Vladimir became known only because at one time he organized for Viktor Medvedchuk, Putin's relative, events in the German parliament during which Medvedchuk distributed narratives necessary for Russian propaganda. Also, they try to present the Russian journalist as an American one. His name is Alex Rubinstein. In their media they call him this way, American journalist, although he's actually a correspondent for Russia Today in America. At least he has been one for a long time. Well, another example of primitive propaganda and fakes from Russia is the publication of photographs of the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Ukraine, Valery Zaluzhny, like with a bracelet depicting a swastika. As it became known to researchers of fakes, there is not a single swastika on the bracelet of Zaluzhny, and this is a simple manipulation with the help of Photoshop, which was committed by Russian propagandists. Let me end the briefing with a traditional call not to trust Russian propaganda, to trust only the Ukrainian teleson, the Ukrainian local authorities, the Ukrainian military and political leadership. See you.